The adaptive expansive philosophy plus simulation theory at its core is a recipe for the attainment of permanent flow state. Permanent flow state allows the human to be their best self. It allows them to create genuine creativity, brilliance, and greatness. It consists of three central tenets. Mastery over all three tenets and congruence results in permanent flow state. The first central tenet is to be engaged in one's life path. To be actively engaged in one's life task is the key. To walk the path one is intended to walk. A path full of meaning and purpose. To truly know and understand oneself and one's purpose and function upon the earth. The life's task of motherhood and fatherhood are the two single most important life's tasks that could ever exist. For it is because the creation of the human and its survival and the future lineage is the most important thing for humanity. Outside of these roles, we humans still serve further purpose. My life's path includes the Pan-American Adaptive Expansive Project that consists of my 5-volume book series. The History of the United States of Latin America. Also the film series, mayhaps also titled The History of the United States of Latin America. It'll be a 10-season saga that begins in the current timeline of the mid-2020s and concludes in the early 2050s when the War for America is concluded and the United States of America is defeated and the United States of Latin America emerges as the dominant new world power, thereby allowing me to create a new civilizational model. The second tenet is mastery over the adaptive expansive mindset. As its name suggests, the adaptive expansive mindset consists of two tenets. The adaptive mindset teaches the human to be able to instinctually be able to seek out what adaptations can be made with regard to the forever changing circumstances of reality that define human existence. The only constant in our existence, in nature, and the universe itself is change. Therefore, the human must be prepared to adapt to that change. These adaptations lead to progress and the evolution of the human species. The expansive mindset teaches the human to always be ready to expand their worldview. The human must be willing to recognize the limitations of their worldview. They must be prepared to engage in productive discourse and debate with good faith with those of opposing or even conflictual worldviews. The human must be prepared to listen to arguments they may not like. Even though one may not agree with someone of opposing worldviews, the human can recognize the validity of their rival's lived experience that created that worldview, and therefore one can at least listen. Listening to an opposing human's worldview gives validity to the life of that person, even though we may not agree with them. This is key to the evolution of the human mind. This is why most humans will not be ready for this evolution. Verily, alas, some will. The third central tenet is mastery over the shadow self. Full and complete integration of the shadow is necessary. It's the transcendence and overcoming of oneself that's necessary. The human must transcend the trauma and pain that caused their shadow. The shadow must be then incorporated into the self. Its energy is to be harnessed into creativity and energy. Alas, the human can attain permanent flow state. As I now reflect whilst writing the text for this episode, I can state that permanent flow state is in existence in complete congruence with nature itself. I'll post a short explaining that. I created the recipe on August 10th, 2024 in the living room of my apartment where I write these words. I attain brief periods of flow state after its creation as I work to fully integrate my shadow. During one such moment of flow state, I created simulation theory. Simulation theory is my most beautiful work. It's my intellectual paramour. I'm truly fascinated and even enamored by it intellectually. In fact, there's nothing I love more in this world than simulation theory until the birth of my progeny, besides my mom. Simulation theory suggests that everything we know about the world, ourselves, and reality is the product of manipulated narratives. Every narrative, by its very nature, is manipulated. A narrative in this regard is defined by the perspectives that it encompasses, but also by the perspectives that it ignores. No one narrative can encompass the totality of the human experience, condition, reality, and history. There is no getting around this. The only mitigation is to recognize the narrative manipulation inherent in every narrative. Recognition that every narrative is but a part of the totality is necessary. The only way to gain a more complete understanding of the totality of human events, history, reality, and the human condition is to study as many different narratives as possible, which represent as many different perspectives as possible. Complete and total immersion into the expansive mindset is a necessity. This is the basis of simulation theory. In every human society, humans are governed by a power structure. Within that structure, there exist narratives that justify and explain the nature of the world. The more free a society is, the more permissible narratives are allowed to exist. In the modern society of the USA with social media and the internet, there exists a vast plethora of permissible narratives. The human lives in this power structure and chooses which narratives to believe in. What narratives the human believes in determines the worldview of that human, along with their lived experience. Therefore, who controls the narratives controls our perception of reality. Who controls the narratives are the powers that be. And this is different in every human society. The reality of the Norse Sentinel tribe is different from the reality of the USA because there's different powers that be who control the narratives, plus the absence of historical forces that compel development. It's the matrix of power and narrative that in fact determine the nature of reality for humans. It's the powers that be that determine which narratives are acceptable and given prominence. In this matrix, all humans are inexorably linked. When the proud parents welcome their newborn into the world, they are the original powers that be in the child's life. The reality of the child is influenced by the narratives it learns from its parents. This is why the world is this way. When the child goes to school and meets outside influences, they experience the greater narratives that are created by the powers that be that in fact determine the nature of reality for themselves and their parents. The only way to a more complete understanding of humanity and its condition on this earth is to study the vast plurality of narratives that relate to humans. This is the key to understanding and gaining more truth. Simulation theory is a theory dedicated to understanding the human reality in this universe. I sincerely believe that I can use this theory to create anything that is necessary. I believe I can create the cure to alcoholism and drug addiction. I believe I can create an effective anti-aging regimen. I believe I've created the solution to the meta crisis. Please like and subscribe and share if you want to listen to positive philosophical discourse in a world bereft of positivity and solutions. Thank you for your time.